How's it going, everyone? It is Prashan here, and we're doing a history of. And I have a special guest with me. You want to intro yourself to the world?
Hello, the world. It is me, Amanda. You can call me Vamp. You can call me Amanda. I'm VampX13. I'm a YouTuber, a cosplayer, a streamer, and an actor. And I also happen to really love comics. So I'm so
Oh,
happy to
yeah.
be here with you, Prashant, to be talking about this amazing character.
Yeah, for sure. You're the perfect person. I decided to pull in to do this just in case I fumble up and mess up. You're the expert here. So
I'll
we have
have my
Blink.
nerd cred on the line. So if we mess up, just let us know in the comments and you can be like,
Oh yeah.
Amanda, you lied to me. And that is
Oh
fine.
yeah.
I'll take it.
For sure,
I'll
for
take the
sure.
hit.
And then also, Amanda did tons of research, so we'll put all the links down below. That way, you guys can check it out yourself.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about Blink. Blink is the season pass card that is dropping in Marvel Snap. And I decided to do a history of, because a lot of these cards in Marvel Snap people don't really know the history of. And Blink, yes, she was in and out of Marvel Comics and with a blink of an eye. So
Very
let's
true.
start off when she first appeared, which was Uncanny X-Men 317.
Yes, Uncanny X-Men 317. And so I think the interesting thing about Blink is that, this card that we have in the game is taking definitely inspiration from her other version. So the first version that we get of Blink is in the main continuity, Uncanny X-Men 317. And she kind of drops in as this mutant who is very interesting in that she has mutant powers, but she's very scared of using them. She actually swears, I believe in this first issue, that she's like, I'm never going to use them again. Because the first time that she used her powers, she basically wakes up in this pool of blood. And
Yeah,
she's
she
like,
basically
what the heck?
rips anything into shreds.
That's
I
right.
guess it's called what, the Blink Wave?
Yeah, she has the Blink Wave. And so the Blink Wave is what a lot of people, when they think of Blink, they probably think of her cool teleportation powers, those that are familiar with her at all, which I also love. I also love that you're doing this because I just feel like she's such a niche character as well, a little bit. But yeah, so she has her Blink Wave. And in 616, initially she is someone that her Blink Wave is very unpredictable. So what that means is she doesn't really know how to just move things without shredding them. Everything gets shredded up that she teleports. So she comes into the comics, and that's kind of how we meet her, as this person that's really afraid of her own powers and actually doesn't want to use them. She also comes in at a weird time when the Phalanx are in the comics, and so the X-Men and the mutants at that time are dealing with sort of the Phalanx trying to capture mutants and take them, and she's one of the mutants that's dealing with that, unfortunately.
Right. And then the crazy thing is, she ends up saving everybody with their powers,
She does. That's the cool
but
thing.
unfortunately,
Yeah,
she
it doesn't
doesn't
work
save
out for her.
herself.
Yeah, I know. That's the cool thing about her character as well that I think is so weird and so interesting is the first issue we see her in is 317, right? The next issue that we see her character in is X-Men 37. And X-Men
37, yeah.
37 is where she dies. So
Yeah.
that's she's in, she's out. Literally the blink of an eye, quite literally. And she does manage to use her powers to save everyone, which is great. But unfortunately, she ends up being caught, and the implication there is that, she seemingly dies. We don't see her next until Necrotia.
Yeah.
So ex Necrotia, The Gathering, she ends up getting pulled out of the portal during that series by Selene, and then she ends up getting recruited by Selene. And Selene basically tells her, listen, everyone could she basically says Emma Frost could hear that you were trapped in this
Yeah. She threw under the
space
bus.
between space. She throws her so under the bus, and she's like,
Yeah.
and I heard, and I actually came for you, but no one else cares about you. So of course this shapes Blink, and Blink thinks Selene is the only good person in the world
And
for
then,
her.
by the way, this is when we put that Celine came out a few months ago in Marvel Snap.
Yeah. I'm so
Galaxy.
interested to hear about how those cards work together. There are so many people that I was making notes. I'm oh, I wonder if these will work good together just because they're allies in the comics. Granted, AoA Blink has her own thing, but we'll get to that in a
Right.
bit. But so yeah, Selene pulls her out. She basically tells her this. What we later find out is a lie. Emma, that is not true. Emma did not hear her screaming in this interdimensional space and said, "No, I'm not going to go get her."
Right. And
Emma's
this space
cold,
was
but she's not that
basically
cold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the space was basically purgatory
Yeah.
in between death and life, and she was just stuck there.
She's been
like
stuck
fending for
there
herself.
since the 90s, you know,
Yeah.
and we are in the mid 2000s, the mid knots right now. So, like 2006, I want to say, is when this
Yes.
other 2006, 2009, 2009, I think, actually. So she's been there
Yeah, when
for
Selene brought her back.
a while, yeah. And then
Yeah.
she goes on this interesting path where she kind of becomes a villain because she's working with Selene, who's obviously super evil, you know, energy vampire, that kind of thing, and or life vampire. And then basically what happens is she does end up getting sort of redeemed. Doctor Strange and Emma Frost are able to kind of remove the influence of Selene from her, and she
Right.
just breaks down because at this point she's also like killed people. It's really sad. And
And
they
the
say,
crazy,
"Oh yeah,
yeah,
go ahead."
the crazy thing is, like, Emma Frost is like, everything's okay. Like, you could be an X-Men. And
I
then, like,
know. They're like,
the
"Look,
fact that she's
this isn't
like,
your fault." Like,
yeah. And then she's like, no, I'm good. Like, I need to
yeah.
process all this stuff and
I mean,
not
I think
deal.
the thing that I love about that, and I love kind of when we have these redemption moments for heroes that go bad, right? Where they get this idea of like, look, like this isn't your fault, and like just because you messed up, it doesn't define who you are, and like you can be redeemed. And people say no to that. I always think that's so fascinating because it's like they aren't ready because they aren't ready to like forgive themselves, right? Which
Right.
for Blink makes a lot of sense because I'm gonna be real with you, like she straight up like killed people. Like,
Oh
it's
yeah, for
bad.
sure. Like, anytime you're dealing with Selene and that Selene like,
Yeah.
that's what sucks too with these like villains per se. They could take someone at their weakest moment and just make them do crazy stuff
I
at
know.
any given time.
So she has such a cool story in the sense that, you know, she is offered this redemption. She doesn't take it right away, but eventually she does find her way sort of to the New Mutants. She does end up at the Jean Grey School for Higher Learning. She basically has a choice between like Wolverine and what he's doing with the mutants, or Cyclops and what he's doing with the mutants. And she even does show up a little bit, I think, on Utopia and does see Cyclops. So that's pretty cool. But then we kind of just don't do anything with her. And she has shown up on Krakoa. She is there. There is a
Yep.
really cool issue with Cable that I loved. She doesn't
Yes, I
appear
did
in
see
it.
that. And I was like, I didn't even know she was in Cable.
Yeah, so she's in Cable issue number 1. She's not like in it, but she's just mentioned in it. But there, I love coming back to this issue. If you haven't read, have you read the Cable, the 2020 Cable run?
No.
Oh, it's so good. You have to read it. It's
Maybe
so good.
I have
It's
to go
like
back.
one of my favorite of the Krakoan era comics, and I just feel like it's so underrated. But there is just a page where in the quarry they have these fights that are just like friendly fights between mutants on the island, and she ends up fighting with Nightcrawler. So it's Nightcrawler and Blink, which I would love to watch that fight. And it ends in a draw is what it's marked as. So it's just a little page that you'll see that is just like, you know, the people that have fought in the quarry and how the fights have ended, who won, who lost, or in some cases, was it a draw? And I also feel like her having a draw with Nightcrawler is like, okay, we're giving Blink some street cred there, because I feel like Nightcrawler's
guy
a
that every time he
badass.
teleports smells like brimstone, and
Yeah.
she has the blink wave. So.
Exactly. So that's basically kind of most of what we have for her in 616. Like, there's not that much. I think all in all, she's made like under 40 appearances, which is nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, which is pretty crazy. And then even going back, trying to do my research, I was like, oh crap, she was in that Uncanny X-Men issue.
Yeah.
Like,
She's just in there.
just in and out.
In and out. Just literally blinking in and out. I was like, man. And I really thought there was more with her, but I think it's also because when I think of Blink, I do think of Exiles. And so I like from going into the Exiles a lot and revisiting that series, I see her all the time, and I'm just like, oh yeah, that's not the main Blink.
No. Yeah, because the main, Exiles Blink is Age of Apocalypse Blink.
It is. It's AoA Blink, and that Blink is honestly, though, the funny thing is when most people think of Blink, those that know of her, you're probably thinking of AoA Blink because she's made a lot more appearances, like over 100 appearances, I want to say, in the comics.
Right.
Mostly because of Age of Apocalypse, but also I would say predominantly because of Exiles, and she ends up becoming the leader of Exiles. She also has a really crazy story, and she also has some different things with her powers that I also think are really cool as well, with her crystals, which is also, when you look at the card, is kind of how you're like, oh yeah, that's AoA Blink, because she
Just
got
like-
the crystals.
Because one of them was like a crystal could be like almost like a save point where she could
Yeah.
just make a crystal and make it to a spot where she could teleport later into.
Yeah, so she has javelins, and she can basically like charge them with like her powers, and then she can basically use those to basically teleport at a distance. So it's like a
Yeah.
long range teleporter, which is also really cool because I feel like, I don't know, I'm sure we have people that can do this because there's a lot of mutants out there. But when I was thinking about that, I'm like, I feel like there's not as many mutants that have that idea of like they can throw a portal, you know what I mean? Like toss it.
Right.
Blink is also
Yeah.
interesting in the sense
It's
that
a-
her portals
it's like
aren't
spot, but
connected
not
to another.
spot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, spot but not spot. But it's like the idea of, as well, like her portals aren't connected to a place. So like with Nightcrawler, with Magic, their portals are going through another dimension. Blink's portals don't go through another dimension. They're not magic based either, which is also unique for a lot of mutant teleporters.
And I believe she teleported everyone to like the moon.
Yeah, that's her range. Her range is at least the moon. At least the moon.
Which is insane.
It is pretty crazy. But yeah, so yeah, the interesting thing as well is then I guess we have AoA Blink, which we could talk about, who really only appears a few months after 616 Blink. Isn't that crazy? She appears early 1995.
Is it when like Sabretooth rescues her, I believe?
She appears in X-Men Alpha, issue number 1.
Alpha.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we get her
Which
in
is
the
a crazy time in
yeah.
comics.
Oh my gosh, Age of Apocalypse was a crazy time in comics, and also the fact that her 616 character dies early on, but people really did like the idea of Blink, so I think that's what allowed her to have a character in Age of Apocalypse, and then her character there just became so popular. It's wild to me to think like the 616 popularity and interest is what brought her into AoA, and that she was so short-lived. Then she goes into AoA. Then we res her in 616, and then no one really cares about 616 because at that point, AoA Blink has just become so popular. It's like they're like, we'll bring her back in 616 because everyone loves her, and then they just did nothing with her. It's bizarre. So so in AoA, she makes her first appearance in X-Men Alpha issue number 1. She gets captured during the rise of Apocalypse. While she is being captured, she basically befriends Magic in this reality. And she is tormented, mistreated heavily by Sugarman and Dark Beast, which would be awful. Until she is rescued by, yes, as you said, Sabretooth, who basically becomes like her adoptive father. And for those that aren't familiar, Sabretooth is basically like Age of Apocalypse's Wolverine, really. He's more of a hero. He's like a good guy, whereas Wolverine's off doing his own thing in Age of Apocalypse, being
with
Weapon X.
One hand.
With one hand, yeah. With one hand, ends up much later going on to become like also kind of the heir of Apocalypse. It's a whole vibe. Age of Apocalypse is a weird place, isn't it? It's a weird, wonderful place. So yeah,
And I think
go ahead.
Blink even has ties to Apocalypse somehow.
She does. So in the 616 reality, she's actually a descendant of Apocalypse, a distant descendant. She's part of the clan Akaba, and basically she is the great granddaughter or the great granddaughter of Frederick Sladeson, I want to say his name is. Let me check my notes. Frederick Slade, that's his name. Frederick Slade.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And Frederick Slade is a descendant of Apocalypse, and Clan Akaba is basically Apocalypse's clan that's basically made up of his descendants. Okay. And they have their own thing that they do, and sometimes they'll like summon Apocalypse and be like, Apocalypse, come help us out.
Yeah.
So that's his team. So Blink is related to him in that distant way. But yes, in 616 at least. I don't know about in AoA. I was trying to find that, actually. I was like, is that still the case? I feel like it'd be weird in AoA based on her being captured by him, but I don't know. You never know. You never know. It's possible.
Maybe he doesn't even know.
I mean, yeah, maybe we don't even know as well yet. I mean, there could be things to still uncover in regards to that, but at least in 616, it's a thing. So she ends up getting recruited by Sabretooth to kind of join the X-Men, which in this reality is led by Magneto because there's no Charles Xavier, because the whole thing that creates Age of Apocalypse is Charles dying, which allows Apocalypse to more earlier on rise up and take over the world.
Take over.
Yeah.
So, let's go into let's look at Blink's ability in Marvel Snap.
Yeah. What's she doing?
So, on reveal, swap the last card you played with a higher cost card from your deck, which is pretty interesting because we're talking about teleportation and
Yeah.
all that good stuff. So,
And it is
I
kind of
think
like a distance because it's not like she's teleporting. She's
right,
changing one of your other cards out. So she's portaling someone else, basically.
right.
Yeah. That's
So
cool.
that's pretty interesting when it comes to Snap, especially since she's a 5 cost. It seems like she's played later in the game,
Yeah. Yeah.
which you can't take advantage of it earlier, which would be pretty OP. Just
It
imagine like a turn 2
Yeah, I
blink.
mean, because you're swapping it out for a higher value, but the thing is, you still have to pay that 5 cost. So you
Oh yeah,
still, yeah. But I will say, it is pretty cool in the sense that you could, like, take something that's like a 1, right? And you could just, like, turn it into
yeah.
something insane that could have a cool. I guess, do you think that would be more interesting to do as well with someone else that has an on reveal ability that you'd be bringing in?
My thoughts on this is swap the last card you played with a higher cost card. So maybe I would think Zoo deck or a Pixie deck. Maybe I could do some Pixie shenanigans with costs. I'm not really sure because I haven't really thought about my decks. Maybe the day of. That way I don't like get influenced by other people or get trapped in
True.
my own head. I typically try to make the same day. But
Yeah.
like looking at it, it's pretty interesting. Like what she does and how you're, because in Marvel Snap right now you're talking about power creep and everything's getting more powerful. And I just think this is like another card where you just bring something OP out onto the
That's what
board.
I was thinking when I read the ability. I was like, this seems like a card that could be an entire game changer, depending on how you use it. Like it does feel conditional though. I will say that. Like I
Oh yeah.
obviously you could play this card and really mess it up and then be like, that was such a waste of this card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in Marvel Snap, obviously, like you win games by surprising your opponent. By like the final turn or final 2 turns, you win just basically because they don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And typically you lose when someone knows exactly what you're doing or they retreat because they know they can't win. So
Yeah.
I think this is one of those surprise cards in Marvel Snap that will be pretty good.
Do you think that she'll work well with like anyone that we kind of have talked about so far, like Magic or like Celine or like Sabretooth? Any of these people you think could be cool with Blink, or did they build that in at all, or no?
Honestly, no. Because that happens in Marvel Snap all the time, like
Right.
where these cards don't have synergy with each other. Like
Oh,
all
that's
the
sad.
members of the Fantastic Four do not
Do
work well
not.
with each other,
Yeah.
which sucks. And then like even when they tried to make like the X-Men versus Avengers, that was pretty cool concept where you played multiple characters
It's
that are
hard
part
to
of the
fit
same
into a
team.
game, though. It's like a lot of meta. Like, I was like, I don't have
Right.
time to think about this when I'm playing.
Oh, right. So it's like those moments where they like if you play Rogue and Gambit, even when they had the Valentine's event, when you play Rogue and Gambit together, they got a buff. Even though those cards shouldn't belong in the same deck together, like why not? I think that should happen in Snap more, but no, Blink does not go with any of the characters mentioned
Dang.
previously, which sucks.
Yeah, that does suck. But you know what? Maybe, you know what? I
Maybe
think,
Selene, because Selene's a 1 cost, I believe. Yeah, Selene's a 1
yeah.
cost.
So you could have
So that
Celine out and then swap Celine maybe later game.
right. Maybe
Yeah.
like you could play like Selene or something. I don't know, and it gets swapped off with the Hobgoblin, but that's pretty far fetched in
Yeah.
the game right now.
That's wild. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, I wonder if there'll be anything, but that is true. That is the thing that I noticed too when I play is like I want to build like an X-Men team and put them all together,
Oh
but I'm
yeah,
like they don't always all work together. Like
no,
and some of them do
not at
and some
all.
of them don't. And then some of the ones that you would think like, oh, these people in the comics, they're always together, but you're like not
Yeah,
in this game. They're not.
yeah. You're like Jean Grey and Cyclops should go together, and
They don't.
no,
Yeah, nope.
not at all.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
yeah, just let me know down in the comments below what are you guys playing with Blink, or what are you guys thinking of that should be played with Blink down below, because I am sort of stumped. Like I'm pretty sure I'll figure it out about time this comes out, but I haven't really put that much thought into it.
I feel like you'll find it when you play it. I think
Oh yeah,
that is
for sure.
definitely
That
the
always
way.
happens.
Yeah,
Like
but
for instance, Cannonball. Everyone thought Cannonball sucked, and then now Cannonball's good.
yeah, it's just figuring out how to use the card. I definitely think inherently, though, just based on what the card looks like right now, that she seems inherently like a good card to me. But I
Yeah.
do think it's about finding the right. I think once people find the groove for her, she could be a card that everyone's playing. It just depends on if the meta like picks it up. That's what I would say.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I'm pretty well. This is a season pass card, so everyone's going to be testing this out because you paid your hard-earned money for it. So
Yeah. Is this
we'll
what the
see it out
season
there.
starts with?
Yes.
Wow. So you start and you get blank. Oh, that seems
Yes.
pretty sick. Oh shit.
Yeah.
That's great. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely am like, I'm intrigued. I want to play with this card. I'll tell you that. I feel like it's very interesting. And I also just like, are there any more Age of Apocalypse style cards that we have? Or like art? I can't think of
There-
any. But
Well, of course, there's Apocalypse in the game,
yes.
but I don't think there's any more Age of Apocalypse stuff
Huh.
in the moment.
I
But
wonder
there
if they
should be,
might
for
do
sure.
something, if this might be a hint that we're going to be getting some Age of Apocalypse stuff because, you know, with X-Men 97, a lot of people have been theorizing, are we going to AoA? Will that come into play? And I've definitely been seeing little things that could be building
Oh
towards
yeah.
it. So I wonder if AoA comes into the show, if they might do something in Marvel Snap that will be like AoA themed, which would be
Maybe,
cool.
maybe. We've seen that technically everything's been off a little bit, like since the scheduling of the like Marvel verse or whatever.
Yeah.
Their film schedule and cartoon schedule has been off, so it's been throwing off Marvel
Been
Snap a
making
little
Marvel
bit.
Snap weird. Like they're like, we were gonna do
Yeah,
this thing, but I guess now we pivot. Like I guess no one's
yeah.
gonna care because that
It's like
movie's
the
not coming out.
right. It's
Yeah.
like the Echo show came out, but Echo came out later, and then like Loki got pushed back. Like it was a bunch of stuff that happened.
But I wonder if they could be building to something, or you know, like maybe AOA is gonna come into it like next week, and we're gonna be like, whoa, and then like you know next month they're gonna be like, yeah, we Blink was a hint, and now there's a whole thing, and the show already happened, but here it is.
Yeah, maybe
see.
we'll see. We'll see what
We'll see.
happens.
Cool,
Well,
cool.
that is it. We got a brief history of Blink, and thank you for hanging out with me, Amanda. Hopefully, we could do this again. Hopefully, you guys in the comments below like this. I'll do more. I'll try to drag Amanda in to do more with me, and then
I
I'll
would
have her
love to.
info down below. That way, you guys can give her a follow. She'll be on YouTube, Twitch, all the above. So yeah, anything you want to say to the peeps out there before we dip out?
Yeah, feel free to come check me out. I talk about a lot of comic book stuff, but I just in general talk about a lot of nerd stuff. I love the X-Men. I just want to say thank you so much for having me on. This has been so fun. I would love to do this again. Also, I'm always
course.
in awe of your Marvel Snap abilities. So I feel like coming on and having these chats, I'm like trying to listen and
better a little
trying to. Yeah, we need to play more because I'm like, I
Oh
just
yeah,
need to
for sure.
play like bigger
We'll
players.
get you the infinite one day.
Yeah, one day. Well, thank you so much
We'll
for
get a
having
cool
me.
card back for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
awesome.
So thank you guys for watching. Follow, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. Be safe, keep on snapping, and peace out.